the tape saying who we are and where we are.
All right.
And then I'll ask you. Um, Today is Friday the 13th of November, 1987. My name is Rebecca Sharpless, and I'm interviewing for the first time Mrs. Quincy Tillman. The interview is taking place in Mrs. Tillman's office, 222 Giles Hall, on the campus of Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm interviewing Mrs. Tillman on her work here at Spelman. She's been here a while, and I want to start out today just by saying I appreciate your letting me come and spend some time with you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
All right.
Could I get you, just for the record, to tell me your full name?
My full name is Quincy, and I use the middle initial L, Tillman, T-I-L-L-M-A-N. Right.
Okay. And you've been here at Spelman how long?
This is my 22nd year. It's September 15th.
So you started in 1965.
65, that is correct.
Okay. How was it that you came to work at Spelman?
Well, I'm originally from Florida, and when I decided to leave Florida and come to some parts of Georgia, I stopped in Augusta, Georgia first, and I worked 1 year at Payne College there. Payne College is a very small college. And when I came to Payne, I really was looking to come to Atlanta. And I wanted to work in colleges, as colleges had been the kind of employment that I had held over the years. So I decided simply because Atlanta was larger, maybe I might fare better here. So I applied here in Atlanta, and at the time that I applied for employment, there were 2 openings. There were 3 openings in the Atlanta University Center for secretaries during that particular time. One was at Atlanta University. The other one was at Clark. Clark had an opening, but it would not have, come due until maybe later on during the year. And then I applied here at Spelman. And upon applying here at Spelman, they needed someone immediately, and that was under the administration of Dr. Albert E. Manley here. And I came here about a month after being accepted here and began working in Rockefeller as the, well, I guess you would call it secretary for the faculty. During that time,
Was that in Dr. Manley's office?
no, that was not. That was in the, let's just say, Mrs. Birch's office, who is now dead, deceased here. Mrs. Birch had been here over a period of 22 years before I got here.
What was her first name?
Vaughn Seal. I think it was Baughncziel. Birch here. And I was over there for about 10 or 11 years. I'm not quite sure. I came here in 76 over in this department.
In the Humanities?
Yes, right.
Okay. What was your job like when you first started over there as the secretary?
Well, it was kind of long. My job was working with supplies, mimeographing, Xeroxing, typing. That was the basis. At that particular time, the school did not have divisions. They just had departments, and I was assigned to certain departments to do work. There were other secretaries on the campus who were assigned to different faculties. So my job was working with the home economics department, the religion department, and many other faculty departments here.
So when someone from home ec or religion needed something, they would come to you?
Yes.
But you were in Rockefeller Hall and
yes, in the basement, right here.
I see. And then later on, then it was divided into divisions?
When it was divided into divisions, then this was over this building. This is when they structured the divisional structure over here. And that was in 1975, I believe. And then I came over here as to work as the first secretary for the divisional structure here. And upon working with the divisional structure, I worked with the Humanities, which took in 4 disciplines, such as the modern foreign languages, philosophy, English, and religion.
I see.
Right here.
When you worked at Payne College, what kind of work did you do?
I worked in a dual capacity between the Dean of Student Affairs and also Alumni Affairs here. And that was general secretarial work here. And I enjoyed it very much, except for Payne was a very small college, and their facilities, their funds were a little low here. So I seek further employment, which brought me here to Atlanta here.
I understand. What was the equipment that you used at Payne College like?
Just the typewriter and the adding machine for the most part.
What kind of typewriter was it?
Well, it was a manual typewriter to begin with, but a couple of months before I left Payne, when they knew that I wanted to move on, they offered me an electric typewriter. But when they did that, I had already accepted the job here at Spelman. And when I came to Spelman, I found a manual because Spelman had not gone into electrical typewriters at that particular time. I did, after working over in Rockefeller for several years, they began to bring on more electrical typewriters. And the first one that I had over there was an IBM Selectric one. It was just an IBM Selectric one, I think. Yes.
Was the typewriter at Payne the first electric typewriter you had encountered?
Well, I didn't actually get it.
You never did?
No, they ordered it, but it was left for the other person here.
So you never got to use it?
No, that is correct. So it wasn't until I came here that I got the first electrical typewriter.
What did you think about that first electric typewriter?
I thought it was just grand. See, when I first came, no one had one except the president's office at that time. And I just thought it was very great when they decided to offer it to all of the other offices here.
What did you like about it?
Oh, the speed. There were so many other features that saved time here. And right now I'm trying to think of how, because there have been so many advancements since even that time here. But it was a difference without having to return your carriage for one thing here. And there were other features too, backspacing and that kind of thing here.
What about the adjustments on the touch?
Yeah, that made a difference. The only problem is I was so used to cutting stencils with the manual typewriter, and my touch became very heavy, too heavy. And being a person, I have suffered with nervousness down through the years. I found it very hard to make myself acclimated to, just lifting up off the heavy touch here. I'm better through the years here.
The first time you hit the key and you get a row of letters.
Oh, yes, right. It's an altogether different situation now here.
How much did it bother you at first having to adjust the touch?
And then it was fun. Because I was a person many, many years ago practicing perfection. And when it sort of rattled off, I just did it over. Each time I did it over, I found myself becoming more perfect in every way.
So that took care of the correspondence. How did you make copies of the correspondence?
With carbon paper.
How did that work?
Well, that was tiring. That was tiring. And making corrections. You understand about, having to, I think during that time we were using bits of paper to place in between each carbon copy. And then it was messy and very unattractive here. And then we eventually came to the copier over here. And that eliminated the carbon copies.
How did that change your work?
Well, it was faster. Your work copies were perfect because there were experiences with carbon copies. If you, let's just say, if you made from 3 to 5 carbon copies, and if your mind wasn't exactly on what you were doing, you just may not have corrected all of the carbon copies. Were in making the copies. Once you made your correction on the original, then every copy would be precise and exact. Mm-hmm.
What did you use to make corrections on the originals when you had the manual?
When I had the manual, we had a correct tape that, let's see if I have, no, I don't have it with me, but it was, yes, it was called correct tape.
Mm.
You pull it from a little paint dispenser for the most part here. Mm-hmm. And when we first got over there, we were not, I mean, when we first got the electric typewriters over there, we did not have the use of correct, liquid paper here. So it was constantly using the tape here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
When you moved to the IBM, did the corrections change?
Yes, because the machine that I have now, we have the built-in. The first one did not, but we have the built-in correction tape here, and that is a big difference here. Yes.
Tell me about mimeographing.
Well, now that's an old story. I have been mimeographing since 1956, I believe, here. And of course, that started back at a school in Florida called Florida Normal. That was a Baptist school. And we used the great big A.B. Dick machine here.
How big was it?
Ooh. The only thing I can do now is just describe it to
About
you.
4 feet long?
I would say about that size. And it was very heavy in depth. And I think we used the can ink, I think. And
what color was the ink? Do you remember?
it was black here. Now that was in 1956. And then I moved from Florida Normal College to the Bethune-Cookman College. And there they had two different kinds, the A.B. Dick and the Gestetner here.
Mm-hmm.
And the Gestetner was used more so in my department than the A.B. Dick. I really enjoyed it because it was well organized down there as far as the use of machines. And we got a chance to do things in color. And I enjoy doing work that is artistic and the organization was just so good. That was a good experience. I really enjoyed it. Then I left the Bethune-Cookman.
Please stop.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, we're back on just a second. You were telling me about the different
but-
mimeographs.
Right, and when I left Bethune-Cookman, I went back to Jacksonville, and I think I began working with the junior high school. And it was a new, and their entire offices were set up with Gestetner machines there here. And I got a little more experience with Gestetner machines here. And I enjoyed that too. And then after that job, I came to, this is when I came to Payne College in Augusta here. In Augusta, I think they had the A.B. Dick. I only stayed there a year, so everything there was very simple here. And I did not do the bulk of the mimeographing. They had an office set up, a one-woman office there. And for the most part, she did it. You would just go in and pass your work to her here, which I thought was a good setup too here. Mm-hmm.
So you cut the stencils.
Right.
And then made the mimeographs.
Right, that is correct.
How well did that work?
It worked fine. It worked very fine. You had to give some notice when you needed it. And then you were charged for the labor. And I believe down there they furnished the paper here. And you were charged for the labor and the paper.
How messy were the mimeograph machines?
I don't remember them being messy at all because you see, I was taught how to care for a machine all through my life. And once the machine was the machine was clean after each use, there really isn't that much of a problem here. It's not as clean as a copier machine, but if you get a good machine and take care of that machine, there really isn't a problem. Now, we've had a bad problem here now with a machine that was supposed to have been new, and having had experience all down through the years, it's hard for me to believe that specification when the machine was placed here. They called and said that the machine was ready. When I came in, the machine apparently had ink in it, and to have a new machine, ink should not have been in it. No one seems to have known where the ink came from. I called the serviceman to come out, and there was two. In fact, he put ink in it, and I said, "Well, ink is already in the machine." He said it should not have been. And then on top of that, it wouldn't roll. So when the man did come out, he said that the roller, not the roller, the drum was defective. And he admitted that the company had about 11 drums from new machines that were defective here. They had to send them back. But he used an old drum from the old machine that we had here, and it worked all right, except for ever since we've had this machine, it has constantly run oil and constantly run ink. And we have had the man come in several times, and he'll put a pad on it, and he'll say it's okay. Well, for a period of time, maybe a week, you don't see any oil, seeping through. But then after then, the oil just comes and it drops down to the other pad. It's a very messy thing. You have to stand there and wipe and wipe and wipe. And then even after wiping, after you run so many for a while, that ink still is coming. I just don't even know how to go on describe it. It's something definitely wrong with the machine. As I've said, I started using mimeograph machines since 1956. My baby, who is 31 now, was 6 months old here. And we never had that problem before. And I do know how to care for a machine. And I think I know enough about at least the A.B. Dick and the Gestetner.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, just as an aside, was Elizabeth Ann still alive when you were
No, she had passed before I went to work there. Now I met her before going to Bethune-Cookman. I met her while I was working with an insurance company in Orlando. Mrs. Bethune became the president of this insurance company because she was the first vice president. The president died before the end of his term. So she came in and took over. She didn't know anything about life insurance, so she hired another man from another big insurance company further up to come in and help her. But in the meantime, she made periodic trips from Bethune-Cookman. I think she was still there, to these different agencies with this insurance company. And I got a chance. Once they said she was coming, the whole world stood still when we heard that she was coming in. I had never seen, I had heard so much about her. And she was known as a dynamic speaker, a great achiever here. And we met her, and I had no idea at that time that I'd ever go and work at her school. But she passed before I went to work there. But I always knew she was there around something because her grave is right across from one of the teachers' dormitory. And this is where I lived when I first went there, in the teachers' dormitory. And every year they had commemoration of her, memorial services rather for her services. The president of Bethune-Cookman who hired me had been there. I think she had passed 4 years before I went to work there. Mrs. Bethune was known to be a very close friend to Mrs. Roosevelt there here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What was she like when you met her?
Well, she didn't have time for things outside of what she came there for. She came to make a special appearance at this little branch of an insurance company just to speak on behalf of the company and give some good advice to the people. And that was it. She would move on because she was in heavy demand for her speaking engagements here. Or one other time I did hear her speak, and it was at a church, and she brought her choral group, and their choral group was known for their beautiful singing here, and she would bring that, and whole Florida would turn out, just to hear that. And I enjoyed hearing her speak. It would just linger with you for a long time. And the same things that I can remember her talking about at this one instance when I went to work there, all over the campus, her magic motto was think. And it was all over the campus that he did.
What did she look like?
Well, according to her pictures, and according to this brief moment that she came through, she seemed to have been a heavy-set woman, very dark, with heavy features here. And some people would refer to her as not a good-looking woman, but when she opened her mouth, the whole world stood still. Yes. Yes. And I think she had a grandson on the campus who worked in the library at the time that I was there. I think his name was Spelman. I can't think of his first name now because it has been since 1963 that I was there. I went there in '59. I stayed there 4 years. Yeah.
That he worked.
He worked in the library. I think his name was Albert Jr.
He worked just like everything else.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Here, let's see. I may need, we've got 2 more minutes on the tape. Yeah. I want to make sure you just turn it over right quick.
All right.
Let's see. So, you worked with the mimeographs and then the Xeroxes. Did you think the Xeroxes were an improvement over the mimeographs?
Oh, heavens, yes. I really do. So much so, there is an appearance. There's a difference in the fineness of your printed matter here. With the and let me say this, I worked with different mimeograph machines that some were heavier, and some, when I say that, they would, in producing its work, you would get a better appearance from some that were heavier than some of those that were less expensive. For instance, there is a Gestetner machine, I believe, that will produce finer work here. And the Gestetner Corporation had a kind of paper that you could use that would bring out the best in the appearance over the A.B. Dick here. Now, I don't know if A.B. Dick has improved their machines or not. From what I can understand, A.B. Dick is not selling as much available equipment here as the Gestetner is.
So the Gestetner's more popular.
Right.
But why would you say Xerox?
The Xerox.
Why was it better?
All right. Well, now, usually when you make Xerox copies, before you make those copies, you have made corrections also. And when you mimeograph, suppose you did not make the corrections on the stencil, and you have to go back, and you can take it off, and there is a messy job. You can either take it off, or you can stand there and put a piece of tape over it here. And so often that isn't put at an even level, and the appearance is sometimes distorted here. And frankly, the ink that comes from or comes on the paper, sometimes it brings about ugly ink spots and that kind of, and with Xerox, but it can bring about spots, but it's not an inky kind of thing. It's dried more or less there.
How do you correct stencils?
We have a liquid called stencil fluid here that you, well, first of all, I was taught to use a gem clip. Whenever there is something to be erased or corrected, you take the gem clip and erase it with the edge of the gem clip first of all to make a better appearance there. And then this liquid is placed on top of the correction here, and that will make it smoother. And I was taught down through the years to make sure that it's going to be a clean erasure. I would take the stencil and place the correction fluid on front and back, because you see when you cut it, it goes straight through. And sometimes if you put it on the front and it may not absorb straight through, you can still see some of the, type material that did not properly erase. So by putting it on front and back, you can almost be sure that it is a clean erase. This is what it looks like, and it comes in blue, and it also comes in green. There are other colors, I'm not quite sure. Working at Spelman these years, we only have the 2 colors here.
When I think about mimeographs, I always think about the purple ink we had in high school.
Was that the ditto? Was that the
Must have
Spirit
been.
Master here?
I
Yes, they do have that. And that's nice too, but it's going out too, because it only lasts for a short period of time, and you can keep the stencil masters for several years, in their jackets before it will fade out here.
I see.
Yes.
So they last longer.
Yes, they do.
How long did you keep the IBM Selectric typewriter?
Oh, you mean over in Rockefeller? Well, until I left there, and I think I was there from 60. Well, when we got it, I cannot remember the year that I really got it, but I left there in 1975, which means that perhaps I was there for about between 6 and 6 and 10 years. Okay.
Mhm.
Yes. I could be off.
And when you moved here, what kind of equipment did you have?
You mean over this time?
When you moved to the Humanities?
Oh, there was an electrical typewriter. I don't think it was IBM. I believe it was a Remington Rand here, and which quickly went out of condition. And then, let's see, I didn't like it at all because the ribbon, I think it had something to place in the ribbon. It was a little more technical in placing it, and then of course I had eye surgery, and it made it a little difficult for me to really see properly. So it was almost like a tiring situation for me here. And then I got the first IBM Selectric, was a Selectric 2. I got it 3 years after I got over here. And then when it eventually panned out, I got this one. I think I've had this one for about 4 or 5 years.
Is this an IBM?
IBM Selectric 3 correcting.
See, it has the self-correcting.
Yes, that's right. This is the self-correcting here. And I really like it because you don't have to wind the ribbon. It comes in cartridges where all you do is just place it there here. And the same thing with this is the tape. You just place it on. It comes a little spool, and you just place. Very simple. They both are very simple to put in here.
Did those first Selectrics have cartridges, or did you have to wind the ribbon?
I think. No, we have cartridges. Though the one that I got over on the other side, it was a cartridge. But it was made different from this one. I think it was a double. Let me see now. I think it would. Well, this does the same thing too. It unwinds from one side. The only thing is this is built in here, and the others were not. They were just out flat, and you could see it from one side as it. And I don't know. Couldn't use it twice. It was a cartridge, but it was just made different from here.
I see. What does this? Let's see. What kind of fancy features does this typewriter have? It self-corrects.
It self-corrects, and it's supposedly soundless here. And it also has this mirror here that you can keep down to keep the noise down. And then it has the half space. Oh, excuse me, 1 minute.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, you have the half space.
Right. And we have the paper liner. This will tell you how much space you have left at the bottom, which I really like quite a bit here. And I do like this is something over what we're used to before here. And then we have the scale up here that we can see. We have the 2 pitches, the 12 pitch and the 10 pitch. And whichever pitch you use, it will light up here, and you will quickly know which is which.
I
I
see.
really like it.
Hang on just a second. Let's turn tape over.
All right.
Okay, this is side 2, an interview with Mrs. Quincy Tillman on November 13th, 1987. Over here to the Humanities. How did you do these?
Well, my first title was Secretary to the Humanities Division, and that I would answer. It went on for about 3 or 4 years, and I decided, the Secretary to the Chairperson, and the other one was called the Faculty Secretary. The Faculty Secretary answered to all of the other faculty. There were times when I would also help out with that. The duties were almost the same, mostly typing, filing, and student assistance, syllabi, various kinds of work, tests, midterms, and what have you. As far as mimeograph is cut, I do not. Whoever needs a mimeograph, I will run it all. And so most of them putting their stencils on, it works just fine because there are many problems with it. After having surgery, I was told to begin with I was more successful than the other one.
If you don't mind asking, what kind of surgery was it?
As I age, you have more and more problems. But I do have leniency. Right now, these are old ones, and I'm anticipating getting some more here. And I think, as a whole, I'm doing all right as far as my vision is concerned. I am handicapped in some way here. I'm able to cope. Almost infrared focus right here. It's not visible, and if I am going to complete it without a problem, there are times when I have to. If I expect to do that, I try not to even talk about that too much here. I try to come in.
Here's your paper.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Spelman has had computers for about the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
How much have you worked with those?
I haven't worked with any computers. My thing is, I probably want before retiring, and it has to do with my eyes here. It's the kind of thing that I would like to do.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, you were saying that you'd like to work on the computers and don't because of your eyes.
Right. And I still plan to use, but I don't want to use them on a basis that would require full-time work here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you say you'd like to work with them?
He's been interested in machines, and I've heard how fascinating I've heard of the different features and how many features seem stimulated with. This is what I would like to know, just out of curiosity. I would like to know about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And others.
I don't know.
Heard that, and I think on this campus they have several different.
The last thing is about the telephones.
All right.
When you first started working in the office, in this office or any office, what were the telephones like?
Well, when I first started, it was back in the basement. We didn't have one at all in the basement. We had to take our calls from upstairs. They would have to send someone down. And I thought it was primitive. I mean, that it was terrible. And it wasn't until maybe 3 years later, maybe more, I'm ready to believe it, was we began to install offices. Now, for the most part, upstairs in the regular administration offices, they all had telephone here. But I started in the basement, and they just did not have telephone.
When you got the telephone, what was it like?
It was a black telephone, plain black one, and it looked like it might have been one that was used down through the years. And then later...
Did it have buttons across the bottom?
No, it did not.
It was just a single line?
Single line, right here. Later, they decided to install telephones. It was still black. When I got over here, they were black. It wasn't until a new telephone system came, and we got this kind of phone.
Has this phone changed your work any?
In my work, I don't think it has. It's just that getting communication seems faster. You know, you can have more access to other people, and you can get it faster here once we learn, you know, the techniques here. Like, I think before we have our own extensions. If someone called in to get someone else, instead of just telling them what that extension is or their number is, you can do it yourself, transfer the call, and that makes it better here.
I see. What kind of training did you get when the new telephones came in?
Well, we got booklets on it here, and then there we got further instructions from the operator too, who would supply us with things that we didn't know about or we didn't understand from the book.
In the 2022,
Right.
how would you evaluate the changes that have happened? Just in a sweeping statement.
I think, and the first 10 years, I felt that it was a school of slow changes. And then since that 10 years, it's actually in 1976, the school seemed to have just made almost drastic changes for the better here. Okay, and it has been sweeping upward ever since. This is my opinion now.
That's what I'm after.
Okay, all right.
And your opinion is exactly what I'm here for.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I suppose I could, but at this point, I probably need a clearer head. I guess it's because I know other people are trying to get in here now here, and we just got this machine, but so many of them are fascinated, and they get very short patience.
New codec
Right. And when they moved it, see, it was in another office before. When they moved it in here, there are about 10 or 11 people in the English department alone. They all swarmed in here at one particular time. It's like they were taking the machine and sending it to the moon and not returning it. It
think of anything else, I'm going to leave you my telephone
All
number and
right.
you can call me.
All right. And Mrs. Sharpless, actually, I want you to feel free to call me to this. I thought this was going to be a better day. This is really not quite as good as I had anticipated. Where I feel more comfortable here.
Everyone is busy.
Right, yeah.
It's hard for you to protect your time, I know, but I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And you call me now. If you need me, you just call me. Anything that you're in doubt or you're not clear on, I'll be here and I'll happily answer you.
You'll hear from me again.
All right.
Thank you, Mrs.
Oh,
Tillman.
you're welcome here.